I stand frozen in my doorway, my silk robe clinging lightly to my skin after my shower. I can't tear my eyes away from Alex, my stepson, as he sits at his desk in the dim light of his bedroom. The space between us feels charged with something I'm afraid to name. I heard you crying again, he whispers, taking a quiet step toward me. My heart hammers against my ribs. When did this boy become a man? At 19, he towers over me now, broad-shouldered and strong. I shiver as his fingers brush my shoulder in a gentle, familiar gesture. We shouldn't, the protest dies in my throat. My body softens into the warmth of his presence, my cheek briefly pressed against his chest. His heartbeat is steady and strong. Let me take care of you, he murmurs into my hair, like you've always taken care of me. When his lips find mine in the quiet darkness, I know I should pull away. But I don't. Who is this woman you're probably asking about? Well, I'm Emma Crawford, 38, and suddenly adrift. 3 months ago, my husband David walked out on a random Tuesday morning. 12 years of marriage ended with the slam of a door, and the lingering scent of another woman's perfume. The bastard even cleaned out our joint account before running off to Cabo with his secretary, some perky blonde barely older than my stepson. Now it's just me and Alex in this echoing house. I've been his mother in all but blood since he was 7, after we lost his birth mother. He's in college now, but lives at home to save money. Such a sweet boy, always bringing me tea, holding me while I cry, trying to fill the hollow spaces his father left behind. Sometimes when he looks at me, I see shadows of David in those dark eyes. But where David's gaze made me feel small, Alex's makes something inside me stir in ways I don't understand. When he comes home from the gym, shirt off and skin gleaming from the workout, the thoughts that race through my mind would horrify my therapist. She says I'm just lonely, seeking comfort in the familiar. But there's nothing familiar about the way my pulse races when Alex is near, or how I lie awake at night wondering what it would feel like to be truly seen by him. I should stop this. I should create distance and be the parent. But every night I find myself walking past his door in my softest nightgown, hoping he'll notice, praying he'll stop me, aching for a connection I know is wrong. The day David left, it was raining. Funny how I remember that detail, raindrops sliding down the window panes like the tears I couldn't shed yet. I stood there, arms wrapped around myself, watching him methodically empty our shared life into a single suitcase. I never meant for this to happen, he said softly. But the words rang hollow. 12 years of marriage reduced to a cliché. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to demand answers. Instead, I stood silent, dignity the only thing I had left to cling to. When the door closed behind him, the sound echoed through the empty house like a gunshot. I sank to the floor, still in my coffee-stained robe from breakfast, the breakfast where he told me about her, about the baby, about everything. Alex found me there hours later, makeup streaked down my face, staring at nothing. My beautiful, gentle stepson, who'd lost his birth mother so young, now watching his family fracture again. He didn't say a word. He just sat beside me on the cold hardwood floor and held my hand. The weeks that followed blur together in my memory, sleepless nights spent staring at the ceiling, phantom echoes of David's presence taunting me, days moving through rooms that suddenly felt too big and too empty. Alex became my anchor in the storm, my constant when everything else was chaos. He started bringing me coffee in the mornings, just the way I like it. He would sit with me during those awful quiet evenings, when loneliness pressed in like a physical weight. His presence filled the hollow spaces David left behind, but differently. Warmer. Kinder. More attentive than his father ever was. And sometimes I catch him watching me with worried eyes when he thinks I'm not looking. Such an old soul in a young man's body. He shouldn't have to carry my burden. He shouldn't have to be the strong one. But he is. And that's what terrifies me most. Because lately, when he hugs me goodnight, I find myself lingering too long. When he smiles, my heart flutters in ways it shouldn't. The love I've always felt for him is shifting, transforming into something that makes my skin flush and my conscience ache. I tell myself it's just grief playing tricks with my heart, that I'm latching onto the only man who hasn't abandoned me. My therapist would say I'm seeking comfort in familiar places, trying to heal one wound by creating another. But she doesn't see how his eyes soften when they meet mine across the dinner table. She doesn't understand how safe I feel when he holds me through my tears. She doesn't know how my soul recognizes something in his that speaks of more than just stepmother and stepson. The guilt eats at me daily. I raised this boy. I loved him as my own. Now here I am, a woman of 38, fighting feelings that could destroy everything. Some nights I lie awake wondering if this is my punishment for not being enough for David, for failing as a wife and now failing as a mother too. But when Alex smiles at me, brings me tea, tells me I'm beautiful when I feel anything but. God help me, I can't stop my heart from beating faster. I can't stop wondering what it would be like to be loved by someone who sees me, really sees me, instead of looking through me the way David did. I know we are walking a dangerous line. Each day the boundary between appropriate and forbidden grows thinner. But in my darkest moments, when loneliness threatens to swallow me whole, it's not David's arms I dream of anymore. And that terrifies me more than anything. I never expected to rediscover myself at 38 in the fluorescent lit classroom of the community college where I teach art history. But here I am, 3 months post-David, watching my students' faces light up as I describe the passion behind Van Gogh's brush strokes. Teaching has become my salvation, the one place where I'm still wholly myself, not someone's ex-wife or confused stepmother. Between classes I've started sketching again. My office becomes a sanctuary during lunch breaks, charcoal spreading across paper, as I try to capture the world around me. Sometimes I draw my students. Sometimes the campus gardens. But increasingly I find myself drawing him, Alex's profile as he studies, his hands wrapped around a coffee mug, the way his shoulders slope when he thinks no one's watching. I've joined a divorce support group that meets Wednesday nights at the local library. We are a mismatched bunch, Karen the pediatrician, whose husband left her for his nurse, Tom the accountant raising 3 kids alone, Sarah who's younger than Alex, but already dealing with a cheating spouse. They've become my lifeline, the only people who truly understand this strange limbo I'm living in. You need to date, Karen insisted last week, sliding a wine glass my way during our after-meeting drinks. Get back out there. I tried. God knows I tried. I let them set me up with Tom's brother, a kind man with gentle eyes and steady hands. But sitting across from him at dinner, all I could think about was Alex waiting at home, probably worried about where I was, if I was okay. I've thrown myself into exercise, joining a morning yoga class where nobody knows my story. The quiet focus helps, but even then my mind drifts back to the house, to the young man, who has become both my comfort and my greatest source of confusion. My yoga instructor, May, has become a quiet friend. She doesn't judge when I stay after class, twisting my body into increasingly complex poses until the complicated thoughts about my stepson fade to a dull roar. Your form has improved dramatically, she told me yesterday. But your heart's not at peace. If she only knew. Work keeps me busy. I'm up for department chair next semester, something I never would have pursued when David was around. He always said my career should come second to supporting his. Now I'm staying late, restructuring curricula, mentoring younger professors. My colleagues have noticed the change in me. You've come alive, Professor Williams, one remarked during faculty lunch. Divorce suits you. Does it? Some days I think he's right. I feel more myself than I have in years. My art is improving. My students respond to my newfound passion. I am making decisions without second-guessing every choice. But then I come home to Alex cooking dinner in our kitchen, looking so domestic it makes my chest ache. He's learned all my favorite recipes, claiming he's practicing for when he moves out. But I see how he watches for my reaction when I take that first bite, beaming with quiet pride when I close my eyes in simple pleasure. I've started taking long drives on weekends, exploring winding country roads with no destination in mind. Sometimes I pull over just to breathe, to remind myself I'm still here, still whole despite everything. The local coffee shop 2 towns over has become my hidden sanctuary. Nobody there knows me as David's ex or Alex's stepmom. I'm just Emma, the woman who orders lavender lattes and sketches in the corner. Last Saturday, a handsome stranger asked about my drawings. He was exactly my type, distinguished grey at his temples, kind smile, wedding ring conspicuously absent. We talked for hours about art and travel and second chances. He asked for my number. I gave him a fake one. Because even sitting there with this perfect on paper man, my mind wandered home to Alex, wondering if he'd eaten lunch, if he was lonely, if he missed me as much as I already missed him. My therapist says I'm using Alex as an excuse not to move on. That I'm clutching at the last stable relationship in my life, because I'm afraid to risk my heart again. She's probably right. But she doesn't see how alive I feel when I'm teaching now, knowing he sometimes sits in the back of my lectures just to support me. She doesn't understand how my art has evolved, capturing not just images, but emotions I never knew I could express. She doesn't realize that maybe, just maybe, this catastrophe of a marriage ending has freed me to become who I was always meant to be. Even if who I am becoming terrifies me. The days flow into weeks. I paint. I teach. I drive my aimless drives. I listen to other people's stories of healing and try to believe my own heart will mend. I tell myself these complicated feelings will fade, that one day I'll look at Alex and see only my stepson again. But every evening I come home to find him waiting, those dark eyes full of something that mirrors my own confusion, my own quiet longing. And I wonder if healing is supposed to feel like falling, or if I'm just finding new ways to break. I sat beside him one evening, our shoulders touching as we leafed through old photo albums and memories. "You made it easy to love you," I whispered, then immediately regretted the words. But Alex just leaned closer, his warmth seeping into my side in a way that felt both comforting and dangerous. The thunderstorm last month changed everything. A massive oak fell, taking out our power. We huddled together on the couch, sharing body heat and stories by candlelight. I told him things I'd never told anyone, about my fears, my dreams before David, the art career I'd abandoned. "Show me," he insisted. So I did, digging out old sketchbooks from the attic. His fingers traced my drawings reverently. "You're incredible," he breathed. "You should never have stopped." The next day, an easel appeared in my living room. He didn't say much about it. He simply set it up near the window where the light was best, along with a fresh set of paints and a stack of blank canvases. When I asked him about it, he only shrugged. "You deserve space for the things that make you feel alive," he said quietly. I didn't know how to respond. The gift felt larger than the objects themselves. It was an acknowledgement of the woman I used to be, of the woman I might still become. In the days that followed, I found myself painting again in earnest. The house filled with the scent of linseed oil and the soft scrape of brush against canvas. Alex would often sit nearby, studying or sketching, content simply to share the quiet creative space. We didn't need many words. The silence between us had become comfortable, filled with a mutual understanding that neither of us fully named. Yet beneath that quiet companionship, something continued to shift. I would catch him watching me as I painted, his expression unreadable. And sometimes, When our eyes met across the room, the air would thicken with everything we weren't saying. I told myself it was grief, loneliness, the natural closeness that comes from surviving a shared loss. I told myself it would pass. But late at night, when the house was still and the only sound was the soft ticking of the hallway clock, I would lie awake wondering whether some boundaries, once blurred, can ever be restored. And whether the version of myself that was slowly emerging, the woman who painted with passion, who taught with confidence, who no longer dimmed her light for anyone, could survive the complicated feelings growing in the quiet of this house.